Okay, let's unpack this. Ordinary people can choose to be extraordinary. Elon Musk said that. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It does. What is that secret ingredient? That thing that takes some people way beyond the norm?
Exactly. And today on the deep dive, we're going right into that. We're looking at what makes extraordinary possible.
Yeah, we're diving deep into Vishen Lakhiani's The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. We've gone through the key ideas, his own story, and the goal here really is to pull out the most valuable insights for you, the listener, to understand these 10 laws he talks about.
Right, and see how they might actually shift how you think about your own potential.
Exactly. Could they spark something?
Lakhiani, who founded Mindvalley, he really believes there's a method, like a code, based on these principles.
A code to, reprogram your mind?
Pretty much, to break free from these sort of societal limits we don't even always see and reach what we're truly capable of.
And he brings in his own life, right? Plus insights from, some pretty high-performing people.
He does. So if you're maybe feeling a bit stuck or you're just hungry for a different way of looking at things.
Or just curious.
Yeah, exactly. This deep dive is hopefully for you. We're aiming to pull up those game-changing ideas and see how they might land in your world.
Okay, so where do we start? What's the foundation Lakhiani builds on?
Well, the first big thing is this concept he calls the culturescape.
The culturescape. Okay, what does he mean by that exactly?
It's like all the invisible rules. The unspoken belief society kind of feeds us about how we should live.
Ah, right. The expectations about jobs, education, how you should look, relationships, all that stuff.
Exactly. It's like we're swimming in it. And his first law, the first big step, is about consciously deciding to, transcend that.
To step outside of it.
Yeah, to selectively choose which rules actually serve you, rather than just following the herd.
That makes sense. It reminds me of his own story he shares. He did everything right, didn't he? Engineering, Microsoft.
Totally. Ticked all the boxes. The good degree, the prestigious job at Microsoft, looked like success on the outside.
But inside, not so much. He felt unfulfilled.
Right. There was this disconnect. And that feeling, that dissatisfaction, that's what pushed him to start questioning it all.
Questioning the blueprint he'd been given.
Exactly. He realized his actual passions were things like photography, acting, stuff that, the sensible world might scoff at.
Which brings up a really key point, I think. How much of our lives are dictated by a definition of success that isn't actually ours? He uses this term, bullshit rules, or Brules.
Brules, I like that. Short and to the point.
It is. And these are basically those outdated ideas we just kind of accept without thinking. Like what comes to mind?
Oh, the big one is you have to go to college to be successful.
Right. It's hammered into us.
But then you look at, say, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. They didn't exactly follow that rule to the letter, did they?
Not at all. They questioned that specific rule. And it makes you think, what other rules are we following blindly?
The book makes a really interesting point here. Outside of, the laws of physics or the actual legal system, pretty much everything else is up for debate. It's just opinion passed down.
Like a social contract that maybe needs updating?
Exactly. These traditions, these expectations, they were formed in a world that's honestly changing so fast.
So are those old rules still relevant today? That's the question.
It is. The book really encourages you, the listener, to pause and ask, are the rules I'm living by actually right for me right now?
And he uses that story, the one about the young Hindu boy and the McDonald's burger.
Oh, yeah, that's a great illustration.
He had this strong cultural rule, no beef.
Yeah.
But then he sees the advertising, feels the pull.
Right.
But instead of just blindly following the rule or just rebelling for the sake of it, he actually seeks information. He questions it.
And makes an informed choice. That's the key, isn't it? Making a conscious decision, not just drifting along with the culturescape.
Exactly. Okay, so that's step one. Recognize and question the rules. What comes next? You mentioned something called consciousness engineering.
Yeah, sounds a bit sci-fi, right? But it's the third law. Practice conscious engineering.
Okay, break that down. What does that involve?
He uses this analogy of computer. Think of your mind like that. You wouldn't run Windows 95 today, would you?
Definitely not. You'd upgrade.
Exactly. You upgrade the operating system, maybe the hardware. Lakhiani says we need to do the same with our minds. Upgrade the hardware and the software.
Okay, so the hardware in this analogy is what? Our fundamental beliefs.
Yeah, what he calls our model of reality. It's your basic assumptions about how the world works. Politics, money, relationships, school, all that deep stuff.
Got it. And the software?
That's our systems for living. the daily habits, the routines, how we actually operate based on that model of reality.
Like, if you believe eating meat is wrong, that's your model, then being vegan is your system for living.
Perfect example. So, conscious engineering is about actively choosing and upgrading both those models and those systems if they're holding you back.
Which leads nicely into the fourth law, which focuses on that hardware piece, rewriting your models of reality.
Right. And the aim is bigger than just thinking differently. It's about achieving your goals and building a real self-esteem.
And this is where our past experiences can really shape those models, often in ways we don't even realize are limiting.
Yeah, Lakhiani gets quite personal here. He talks about being bullied as a kid.
Because he was a minority in his school and later dealing with, really bad acne.
Yeah, and how that just crushed his self-image. He carried that into university.
Feeling invisible, thinking romance was just not for him because his model of reality was, I'm not attractive.
He even mentions taping his glasses together. It's such a relatable feeling, though, that sense of not being good enough.
But then there's that turning point, that moment at the college dance.
Ah, yes. With Mary. He thought she was completely out of his league.
He dances with her, they kiss, and he's expecting, rejection, awkwardness.
And instead she just says, "Are you kidding? You're hot." And kisses him again.
Boom. Just like that, his internal reality shifted.
Completely. Nothing about him physically changed in that instant. But his belief about himself changed.
He realized the story he'd been telling himself, that model of reality, maybe it just wasn't true.
And he said his dating life transformed after that. It shows how powerful one piece of contradictory evidence can be.
It really does. And it highlights this core idea. Maybe the things we see as our biggest flaws are just, lies we've accepted.
Limiting beliefs.
Yeah. And that you, the listener, you probably already have what it takes. It's often about changing that internal perspective, rewriting the model.
Okay, so we've tackled the hardware, the models of reality. What about the software? Upgrading our systems for living. That's the fifth law, right?
That's right. And he gives a pretty practical 3-step process for this. Discover, refresh, and measure.
Discover, refresh, measure.
Okay.
Tell me about discover.
Discover is simply about seeking out new ideas, being open, reading, listening to things maybe like this deep dive.
Hopefully. Finding better ways to do things, essentially.
Exactly. Identifying potential upgrades for your current habits or systems. Then comes refresh.
Which is putting those new ideas into practice.
Yes, and continually refining them. The book uses fitness as an example.
Oh.
You discover a new workout you like.
Okay.
Refreshing your system means actually doing it, maybe setting new goals each year to keep improving.
Makes sense. And the last step, measure.
Crucial. You need to track if the changes are actually working. Are you getting the results you want?
So for fitness, that might be tracking your runs or weights or, as the book jokes, maybe your belt notches.
Exactly. It's about feedback. Are the new systems effective? Do they need tweaking?
Right. So discover, refresh, measure. A continuous cycle. Now, moving on from that, the sixth law sounds intriguing. Bending reality.
Yeah, it does sound a bit out there, doesn't it?
A little bit. Are we talking superpowers here?
Not exactly Neo in the Matrix. Bending reality, in Lakhiani's terms, is more about a different system for living. It's about how you relate to your goals and your happiness.
Okay. How so?
The core idea is to hold on to your future vision, your big goals, but be deeply rooted in happiness now, in the present. Don't tie all your happiness to achieving that future thing.
Okay. So it's not, I'll be happy when I reach X.
Precisely. Avoid that trap.
Yeah.
He shares his own experience building his company. He was totally stressed, obsessed with revenue targets.
Relatable for many entrepreneurs, I'm sure.
Totally. He realized he wasn't enjoying the journey at all, so he consciously shifted his focus. Made having fun, feeling happy now, the priority.
And what happened?
Well, paradoxically, the revenue actually went up significantly.
Wow. So by focusing on present happiness, he actually got closer to his future goals anyway.
It seems so. It's this idea that happiness isn't the destination. It's the fuel for the journey. You need to cultivate it now.
So have the big vision, absolutely. Be ambitious. But find joy in the process, in the day-to-day. Don't postpone your happiness.
You got it. Which flows really well into the seventh law. Practice blisscipline.
Blisscipline, another unique word.
It is, but it's basically the discipline of daily bliss. And where does he suggest starting?
With something simple, right? Gratitude.
Exactly. And he points out there's actual science backing this up. Gratitude practices can boost energy, reduce depression.
It's not just feel-good fluff. There are tangible benefits.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And he introduces a concept from Dan Sullivan here called the reverse gap.
The reverse gap, as opposed to
the forward gap, which is where most of us focus the distance between where we are now and where we want to be.
Which can feel daunting or like you're never quite there.
Exactly. It can lead to constant dissatisfaction. The reverse gap flips that. It's about looking back.
Looking back at how far you've come.
Yes. Actively acknowledging your progress, your achievements, and feeling grateful for them. It's a deliberate way to generate that daily bliss.
I like that. Shifting focus from what's missing to what's already been gained. Okay, so cultivating daily happiness is key. Then the 8th law moves towards the future again.
It does. It's about crafting a vision for your future, but one that's tied to your happiness, not just external markers. And this is where he distinguishes between means goals and end goals.
Ah, okay. Means goals versus end goals. What's the difference?
Means goals are often the things society tells us will make us happy. Getting the degree, the promotion, the corner office.
The things we do in order to supposedly get happiness later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Lakhiani argues they often don't bring lasting joy because they depend on external factors, validation.
Okay. So what are end goals then?
End goals are about intrinsic joy. The feeling itself is the reward. Things like seeing your child succeed, expressing your creativity, making a difference in a way that feels meaningful to you.
The satisfaction comes from within, regardless of external rewards.
Precisely. He uses love as an example. Feeling love for a partner, that feeling is an end goal. It's inherently joyful. But if you make your happiness dependent on that person always being there or behaving a certain way, you've turned it into a means goal.
Which makes you vulnerable.
Very. The focus should be more on your capacity to feel that love, which is within your control.
That's a subtle but really important distinction. Okay, and that idea of internal control seems to lead right into the 9th law. Be unmessed with.
Yes, being unmessed with. It's about developing that inner resilience where your self-worth and happiness aren't constantly being knocked around by outside events or opinions.
Building that internal fortress, like you said earlier, how does he suggest we do that?
2 main components. First, have self-fueled goals. Goals where your success doesn't depend on someone else saying yes or cooperating.
Okay, give me an example.
Instead of, I want my boss to appreciate me more, which depends on the boss.
Yeah.
A self-fueled goal would be, I will consistently produce excellent work and communicate my contributions effectively. Your effort is the focus.
Got it. You control the input, not necessarily the immediate outcome or external reaction. What's the second component?
Realizing that you are the source of your own happiness and success. Taking responsibility. Not blaming external circumstances when things go wrong.
So not letting that person who cut you off in traffic ruin your whole day.
Basically, yeah. It's about recognizing that your emotional state is ultimately your choice, your responsibility. Developing that resilience.
Okay. Self-fueled goals and taking ownership of your own state. That's being unmessed with. Which brings us to the final law, number 10.
Embrace your quest.
Your quest sounds epic.
It is, in a way. It's about feeling you have a calling, a purpose, a desire to contribute something positive, to make some kind of meaningful difference in the world, big or small.
And extraordinary people, according to the book, they often don't see work as separate from this quest.
Exactly. It's aligned. It's part of their calling. He mentions Richard Branson saying work and life are the same thing. It's that level of integration.
But importantly, the book stresses this isn't only for entrepreneurs, right?
Absolutely crucial point. It debunks that myth. You don't have to start a company to have an extraordinary mindset or be on a quest.
So a parent raising kids with intention, an employee doing their job with passion and care, a volunteer, they can all embody this.
Totally. It's about doing your best, finding joy, bringing positivity, whatever your role is. That's the extraordinary mindset.
And it also pushes back against the idea that a regular 9-to-5 job is somehow inherently soul-crushing.
Yeah, it challenges that assumption. What matters is finding happiness and feeling like you're making a positive impact, whatever the structure of your work looks like.
So wrapping it all up then, the core message seems to be that living an extraordinary life isn't about luck or background, but about consciously transforming how you think.
It really is. It's a framework, these 10 laws, for anyone feeling that pull towards more fulfillment, more impact.
We've covered a lot questioning those rules, engineering our consciousness, upgrading systems, bending reality towards present happiness.
Practicing discipline, focusing on those internal end goals, becoming unmessed with, and finding and embracing your unique quest.
It's quite a comprehensive code for rethinking potential.
It really is. Which leaves us with maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Go for it.
Just take a moment, maybe after this, and reflect. What's just one bullshit rule that might be quietly running in the background of your life right now? Something you've just accepted.
Identifying one Brules.
Yeah. And then what's one tiny step, really small, that you could take maybe even today to start questioning or rewriting that particular rule, that model of reality for yourself?
A small step towards your own extraordinary code.
Exactly. Maybe exploring Lakhiani's work further could be part of that step. It's definitely food for thought.